10 o'clock it is on Small Business Connect Radio. It is a Wednesday. Today it's the 15th of April 2015. So we're back again to be with you for another lively discussion around what matters around your business, your life, everything in between. Previously it was how to register your business and all the queries that goes with it. And this time around, it's all about tax. We all need to pay the taxman once a year, either personal income tax, business tax, corporate tax. We're going to go into all of that. But I think to go with the theme of who we are, Small Business Connect, we're going to be focusing more on the business side of it. My name is Herman, your co-host this morning on Small Business Connect Radio. Thank you very much for joining us. And at this point, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Mtiki Mkhize. Mtiki, good morning to you, and how are you?
Good morning, Herman. I'm fantastic. Thanks, and yourself?
Fine, thank you very much. I'm going to steal the thunder and say congratulations.
Thank you very much, Herman.
I don't get to interact with the beauty pageants, so to speak, but I'm honored to be co-hosting a show with Miss S.A. Second Princess. I hope I got that right.
That is correct. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be hosting the show with you as well. I think it's great when such great platforms can meet with other great platforms to inspire young people.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And at the same time, let me welcome our publisher, Christoph. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Erwin. Nice to speak to you again, and welcome to everyone joining the show today. I see that for those perhaps that are joining the first time on this platform, it's a great way of connecting, and for you that are signing in as participants also to be able to interact with the people that we bring on as guests through the questions that you can ask. We also have a poll that we can run, so get some feedback from people in terms of where they are and what they do. But you can should I do quickly do while I'm talking about it? Talk about the chat here on the right that people can use. Maybe if people signing in now can go to the right of the screen, and there's a tab that says chat. You are able there to maybe starting off just say who you are and where are you from, and then as the show progresses, we can use that space to also get some feedback from our participants on the call today.
Awesome, thank you very much. You heard, and already Rashika from Durban says hello, and Mdu from Johannesburg sends a shout out to you as well. So let me also go through the list of attendees. We have William, Sisanda, Sebastian, Skalk, Rose, D.A. Pretorius, Dean, Feroza, Adil are some of the guys that are joining us this morning. So good morning to you and welcome to it. To this morning, we're going to be chatting to the CEO of the Tax Ombud. It's actually called the Tax Ombud, not the Tax Ombudsman. So I was going on the whole time. Christoph, what's happening with the Tax Ombudsman? So no, it's actually the Office of the Tax Ombud. That's what it's called officially. So we're going to be chatting to the CEO, Eric Mkhawane. Hope I got that right. Sorry about my pronunciation there. Eric Mkhawane. There we go. Eric Mkhawane, the CEO, his advocate, Eric Mkhawane. And also we're going to be joined by the Senior Manager of Operations. That's Talita Moabe. The two guests that we've got today. And at this point, let's see who's on the line. I think it's the CEO. Good morning, Advocate. I think you need to press that mute button right at the top. The second one, just click the mute microphone, and there we go.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. And how are you?
Great. Thank you very much for joining us. We're really looking forward to you being on the show and interacting with you, as well as the Senior Manager of Operations. Let me bring my co-host Ntiki, I think, to set the scene and also get the first part of the show underway. Ntiki, over to you.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. And I heard you being congratulated, and I want to also congratulate you.
Thank you very much. It's a very exciting time for me. And I'm glad I still get to do projects like this. So I'm really excited about it. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for making the time to join us this morning. I think people are always sitting at home and they're wondering, what do I need to know about tax? What do I need to know about that? And I think as young entrepreneurs especially, we tend to panic about a lot of things, so just to get people to wrap their minds around it, what exactly does your office do and what are you responsible for?
Thanks for this opportunity, and we really appreciate this. What our office does is to review and address complaints by taxpayers. Now, this complaints obviously complaints against SARS. So if one has an issue and SARS has failed to address that issue, they can come to our office, for example, to lay a complaint with our office so that we can review and address that complaint. Is that clear, or should I just carry on?
Yeah, sure, you can carry on, sir.
Okay. All right. I just want to understand also the format. Am I just going to speak or I'm going to be interrupted to be asked questions?
Yeah, I think the idea is to give you the platform to, I think, lay the foundation of what the office does. Any other interesting bits of information that you think you haven't heard, and then thereafter we're going to be we've opened up a channel for our guests, our listeners, to submit their questions, and I think yourself as well as the senior manager of operations, Talita, will be tackling those questions from the audience as well.
Okay. Just from a logistical point, I'm the one that is connected currently, and Talita is sitting next to me. She will have an opportunity. So if there is any question that is asked that relates to her portion, I may just simply give her the mic. Now, if I may just give a little background, I mean, an ombud usually it would be a person that is impartial and independent, and that will look at complaints that are made against an organization. Say, for example, in this regard, people who have complaints against SARS, they may need to run to us, because SARS may not sometimes be able to see its fault or anyway, in any way or form, and so we are there to try to address such complaints, more like your public protector, but in this regard, public protector for tax issues. Now, if I may give you a bit of background, this aspect, I mean, this tax ombud, obviously was introduced in 2013 following the coming into operation of the Tax Administration Act. Now, but there is a bit of history. It was first proposed back in the mid-90s by the Tax Commission that there must be a tax ombud. We all know that SARS has got very wide powers. They have powers. They can go in and clean your bank account without you knowing, and you wake up one morning, you have no money, and if you have a debt with SARS, they have those kind of powers. They have the powers to do many things, to take judgment without following the normal process of summoning people. So with such kind of powers, you need to have checks and balances, and because of that, it was necessary to have an office such as the Tax Ombud to keep an eye on what SARS is doing to taxpayers. So they have an issue with SARS, which SARS is failing to resolve, then they will run to us. And what is key here is also the fact that we are independent of SARS. So we're not part of SARS.
Okay.
We report to the minister. We are accountable to the Minister of Finance. So so in a way, it helps in the sense that, I mean, if you look at the background that I was relaying to, there was a time when I said it was in the mid-90s when it was first proposed. but SARS did, I mean, Treasury or the Minister of Finance or the government at that time was not ready to have this. So it was only back in 2002 where they started to come up with something that was close to a tax ombud, which was the Office of the Service Monitoring. It was called the SARS Service Monitoring Office. So that office, unfortunately, it resided within SARS, so it lacked the independence. So if one complained, you were complaining to SARS against SARS. So finally, in 2011, the Tax Administration Act was published or was promulgated, and it came into operation in 2012. And then in 2013, the minister had to appoint a tax ombud, and in this regard, he appointed the retired judge president of the North and South Gauteng High Courts, Judge Bennett Mwepe.
Okay.
So he was appointed in 2013 to set up this office, and I equally was appointed around late in 2013. So we set up this office. Now, the key things to understand, this office, like I said, is independent of SARS. It's not reporting to the commissioner, it reports to the minister. And it also, the services it renders, it's rendering this service for free. So if a taxpayer has a complaint and they come to us and lodge a complaint, they don't pay anything. But obviously, if they use the services of a tax practitioner, only then they can be paid. The tax practitioner for that matter, not us. So our services are free.
Just to ask, what's the best way to get in contact with you if somebody is disgruntled about something that has happened? What's the best route to follow to contact you and resolve grievances?
Basically, we have various channels. We have email. We have a toll-free number a person can call. But if a person needs to come in as well, they can come into the office. So we sometimes, from time to time, have people who are coming in to lodge a complaint. So I can give out those details now. The toll-free number is 0800. It is 662-0837 or 662-837. Sorry.
Okay.
So it's 0800-662-837. So we can also be contacted by fax as well, which is 012-452-5013. And then we also have an email. We have a website, which is www.taxombud.gov.za. And in that website, you will also find the complaints guide. It tells a person exactly how to lodge a complaint and what kind of complaints fall within our mandate and what kind of complaints do not fall within our mandate. So we are a creature of statute. I will touch on that when time permits. And then we also, yes, we have we have our email address, which is complaints@taxombud.gov.za. So either way, it can be by fax, maybe by telephone. It can be going onto the website.
Okay, so we'll share that information in our chat box.
Okay.
So, Advocate, one question that just came through from one of our listeners, Louise Fletcher, says, at what point in one's dealings with SARS can one approach the Tax Ombud for assistance?
The Act provides that a person can approach our office only once they've exhausted the SARS internal complaints processes. So it's not always the case that a person can come directly to us. But the Act also provides for exceptions. because in some instances where, for example, a person has compelling circumstances, a person may be required, a person may just approach our office directly without having to go through SARS. The Act further, defines what things we can look at, in determining whether they are compelling circumstances. Now, if I may give an example, a taxpayer has a problem. It's involving the finances, which may end up, ending the business or closing down the business. Such an aspect we may look at, if there is a hardship in following, if there will be hardship, will be creating hardship for the business to push them to follow this, the normal process of going through SARS and raising the issue with SARS, and then only after a certain period then they can come to us. So the Act creates that kind of exception. So if one has a compelling circumstance, but they must justify that, they must indicate to us what that compelling circumstance is when they complain to us directly without raising the issue with SARS. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
And then just
Right.
also to find out, what is the period in terms of turnaround time if I do come to you with a particular complaint? Is there a set time frame in how long it would take to resolve that challenge?
Okay. We set a target for ourselves for 15 working days from the time we accepted the complaint. Because when somebody complains to us, we know that by that time they are frustrated. They really need a quick resolution. So we undertake to resolve it within 15 working days. But it's not always the case. Not every problem that we can resolve it within that specified or within that 15-day period. Some complaints may be complex, and they may require further investigation. And also, we also depend on what SARS response is at the end of the day. So it's yes, our target is 15 working days.
Okay, that seems like an efficient period of time. So for our listeners that are sitting and they're listening, and I think for every entrepreneur, their grievance is probably the biggest, and to them it seems like the biggest complaint in the world, and it's very important to them, and it does have to be resolved immediately. What are the
Yes.
kind of challenges that most business owners come to you with?
Well, they vary. The most common ones may be refunds, for example. A business, a small business has got a refund sitting with SARS, and SARS is taking too long to finalize it. So they do approach us, and we step in, and most of those cases get resolved speedily once we step in.
Okay, thanks for that.
So you also have the kind, dealing with tax clearance certificates, where they are, people are requesting tax clearance certificates, and there's a bit of delay in dealing with it. Now,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to put across Carl's question to you, then maybe you can sort of include that in your response. Carl wants to find out, what are the implications of the new tax legislation and SARS practices for small businesses?
I beg your pardon, I didn't get that question properly.
So one of our listeners, Carl, he would
Yes.
like to know, what are the implications of the new tax legislation and SARS practices on small businesses? So in relation to the kind of grievances that do get brought to your office frequently, and maybe if you can just align it to this as well.
Okay, what does happen is that, with regard to what we're doing, is to make it easy even for the small businesses to comply. At the end of the day, is that we need to make sure that SARS is treating small businesses correctly. And so if there are systemic issues, for example, that that impact negatively maybe I should just define what a systemic issue is. It's an issue, a service-related issue, which, if not addressed, may have a negative impact on on taxpayers. Now, for example, if we look at small businesses, they rely heavily on this cash flow, for example. So you can't, if they have a refund, it must be finalized within a specified period, and and they must be able to get this cash to be able to proceed, in their businesses. So this act, in a way, what it does is just makes provision that we can intervene under circumstances that where the small business is experiencing hardship, for example, due to this cash flow, and SARS is holding back on the refund. We may step into to intervene and try to make sure that the small businesses or the issue gets resolved quickly. So this is just but one of the issues, but there may be certain practices within the tax clearance, on the tax clearance side, where people may be wanting to put up a tender somewhere and they want a tax clearance certificate, but certain issues which may only be systemic, and which may not be issues that which may be issues that may be caused by the systems as well. And once we look at that, we address those issues, and they get resolved quickly.
Okay, that is understandable. So for somebody at home who does have refund challenges or is looking to apply for a specific tender and they would like your assistance in that regard, do you deal with certain limits? So is there a limit amount of, say now, minimum requirement of how much your refund should be, or a limit to how much money is involved? Or is it anybody and everybody that can approach you?
It's anybody and everybody. It may be a listed company, it may be a spaza shop around the corner, so it's the same. So the Act makes provision for everyone to have access to this office.
And is there differences in how you would approach the issues for a company versus a company, organization that manages an NGO or a non-profit organization?
No, there's no. We treat every taxpayer alike. We don't distinguish between the high profile and the low profile and the like. So we treat them, we will give them the right service. And obviously, the only issue that may differentiate is the pressing need. And that in a way, it may determine how we approach the matter.
The advocate, another question from Adil, one of our listeners, says cases older than 3 years that SARS do not look at. Branch office says we must take them up with the Ombuds office. Is this correct? And will the Ombuds assist with these sort of cases?
Yeah, let me just go into that. One of the limitations in the Act was that the tax ombud would not look at a matter that is older than a year. That is older than a year, meaning that matters be prior to October 2012. That was one of the limitations. But we have, however, approached the minister and saying that we want to look at all matters, because we continue to find matters that were older than a year, and some of them even more than 3 years. So we do address those kind of complaints. So that limitation was only saying that the age of that should not be more than 1 year, but we are addressing all of them now. We got approval from the minister, and we're seeking an extension of that approval currently. So now there is also another category of cases where, and I think that listener is trying to allude to, is the cases where there was an error in the assessment, but the 3-year period has lapsed. So there was a section 98 which was introduced early last year to allowing SARS to go back into those kind of matters. So yes, we do receive those kind of complaints and we take them up with SARS. And SARS has actually formed a committee that addresses those kind of cases. So we refer, so such complaints can be referred to us.
Advocate, there's another question that has come through. How private is the information that people give to the Ombud, and is that information shared with SARS at all?
There's Section 21 of the Tax Administration Act says that we are not allowed to divulge the information we receive from a taxpayer to SARS, but only to the extent necessary. We're only allowed to divulge what is necessary for us to carry out our function. So if it's a complaint, we need to sift the information that is sufficient, that will enable us to deal with the complaint and share it with SARS, only to that extent. But if it's something that is not very relevant to the complaint, we keep it confidential. So, we can be charged if we ever divulge, everything to SARS, even what is not necessary for us to carry our duties. So one can be rest assured that there's confidentiality.
Okay, and then also with the kinds of companies that do approach you, should a company have operations outside of South Africa, so maybe within the neighboring countries, but everything that they do is cleared through the head office in South Africa, do you reach out into other operations?
You mean other operations outside the country?
Well, yes, if somebody has a grievance relating to maybe business conducted in another country, but the head office is based in South Africa.
Well, we do address those issues as long as the head office is here and the issues that the experience is here within SARS here.
Okay, and then also just to get an understanding of the process, once I've contacted the Office of the Tax Ombud and I've declared my case and I've given you all the relevant information, going forward, do you then communicate with SARS on my behalf? Do lawyers get involved? Do I need to get my own lawyers? What is the process moving forward?
No, you don't necessarily need to get a lawyer once you are with us. When we get a complaint, we have access to all the SARS systems. So whatever system the SARS is using regarding taxpayers, we have access to it. So what we do is that we investigate. We first do our own investigation into those systems. So if it's a system-related issue, we'll pick it up immediately, and we can merely make a recommendation to SARS and say, well, here's a complaint, and here's the issue. This is our recommendation. And SARS may simply, accept our recommendation and resolve the matter. Or SARS may say, well, maybe, there's a different version to this. And in such a situation, we give both parties, an opportunity to respond. And then we can come in and make a recommendation. But sometimes you find that there are so many factual differences between the parties. So we are allowed, the Act does allow us to mediate between the parties, or we can conciliate between the parties. Sometimes we have brought parties together, the taxpayer and SARS, representatives from SARS, and listen to both sides and conciliate or mediate between the parties.
See, I find that very interesting. So what happens in the event where SARS does not accept your particular recommendation? How then is the grievance of the individual resolved?
All right. Now, if SARS does not accept the recommendation, from our side, what we do, everything that SARS, whatever recommendation we make and SARS does not implement, we put that in the annual report. Like I said, we report to the minister. So we do an annual report on our activities, on the recommendations that we make, to SARS. And where recommendations were not accepted by SARS, we put that in the report. And that report gets tabled in Parliament. And then, it's the minister tables that in Parliament, and the portfolio committee on finance may be questioning SARS, how come you're not implementing this? But so far, SARS has implemented almost all the recommendations that we made, because obviously they also don't want to have a negative publicity. So if we make a recommendation, we also must make sure that we're making the correct recommendation. So it's a challenge upon us as well to make sure that we're not just offline and make recommendations that do not make sense. So we must investigate that properly and make sure that we are in line.
Advocate, another question that just came through now says a client have foreign nationals on the payroll. Can you register them for tax using their passport numbers? And what if they do not have work permits? Do you guys also get involved?
No, that's not an issue. That's an issue that can be addressed by SARS themselves. But if there's a complaint relating to SARS not being able to guide a taxpayer or provide the necessary service in that regard, then we can step in. That's only when there's a complaint. But the processes and procedures of what they do and what they shouldn't do, that lies with SARS.
Okay, and I mean, just to follow up there, Advocate, you don't interfere with operational processes then at SARS, where you'd recommend that you need support staff for this particular unit, so to speak.
No, we don't interfere with the processes, but we can give input. If, for example, we go around and we realize that, or maybe from the complaints that are coming in, we pick up that, there's a trend within SARS, maybe certain people don't understand certain things. We can make a recommendation to the commissioner and say, well, Commissioner, your people are not trained enough to understand this aspect. Make sure you do X, Y, Z so that they can provide the correct service to the public.
Okay. So, and another one, I think this is where would fit in with your role there, Advocate. Charmaine says, can we bring cases to you where SARS are persisting in disallowing genuine business expenses being claimed against the sole props income, I think sole proprietor's income? What are the appeal stages then, or what should they do then to appeal? I think that's what she's trying to say.
Oh, okay. Now let me come in there. There are certain limitations. Like we said, I mean, we are a creature of statute. We have a mandate. The Act defines what our mandate is. So there are certain limitations. One of them is just maybe the merits of the objection, and which is issues such as the one that has been asked now, the disallowing of the expenses. So that aspect follows its own route, which is the objection and appeal, and then maybe heading all the way to the tax court or the tax board or ADR. So depending on which process the taxpayer chooses. So in regard to the merits itself, the merits of the objection, we are not allowed to look into it. So if one is talking about liability, it's outside our mandate. But in the processes that are followed in getting to that, if they are found wanting, that's when we step in. So we may not necessarily look at the merits, but if there's a service element to it, we look at the matter. If there's a procedure that is not followed, we look at it. We will look at the complaint. If the administrative aspect, maybe for example, there's an objection that is lodged, taxpayer does not get a response, and there's a stipulated time period within which SARS is allowed to look at the objection. So once that period lapses, then we can step in. They can complain to us. Yes, So they can complain to us that it has taken too long. But there are certain, in every complaint, sometimes we look at whether there's any service element to it, whether there's a merit of the objection, and like what we'll look at what falls within our mandate and address it. But sometimes indirectly, the other main issue, which is the merit of the objection, gets addressed. Does that answer the question?
Just sort of coming in on the chat. We haven't chatted in a while.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So the other thing that I wanted to find out, just quickly, we're going to bring Christoph on. He does our poll for us, so we're going to quickly run the poll, and then we'll bring you back in just to engage a bit further. I think this conversation has been very knowledgeable. Christoph, are you there?
Yeah, Nsiki, so in the area that we've been chatting away now, posing our questions on the right on the screen, there's also a tab that says polls, so which we just clicked, which would be interesting to see and maybe even compare with the statistics that comes from the Ombud office themselves. But people on the call today, sort of what are you most likely to contact the Tax Ombud about? Would that be VAT calculations? And I think we've heard that a lot of that has to do with refunds and the speed at which refunds are paid. But there are, of course, also other areas that we may get stuck into problems. I saw one of the questions posed was whether the Tax Ombud only deals with company matters, but also do they also do personal income tax? So is that something that you would contact them with? Or things like parent certificates that. So you can go, all the people, all the listeners, participants on this show can click on the right there in the polls tab and actually participate in voting there. So you can select any of those or other and then vote, and then later on we can tally up and come back to see what the result was.
Thank you so much for that, Christoph.
If that's clear enough, I hope.
Yes, I'm sure people can go down and click that. I think we've touched on those few topics, so it'll be interesting to see what the prevalence amongst our listeners here is today.
Yes, and while I'm talking, we must remember that we also have the operations manager at the Tax Ombud's office that's got information to share. I'm keen to hear from him. Maybe if the advocate can at some point pass over to him things about statistics. So I noticed that in the report that Nabila wrote in our past edition of Small Business Connect, that in 2013 there were only 670 complaints that were lodged, and that went up to 5,440 in the 2014-15 year. So it would be interesting to hear from him, sort of in terms of operations, how they're finding the increase in complaints coming in and what kind of complaints they are too. But yeah, I found thus far, I mean, it's all new to most of us, the whole idea of a tax ombud and a resource that we can use. And I was quite surprised to hear today that even if, especially from a small business perspective, sort of if something like a delay in a tax refund can actually close your business in many small businesses where the cash flow is something that you have to watch very carefully. So I'm quite pleased to hear that there are ways for the Tax Ombud also to help small businesses in that way.
That is very interesting. Thank you so much, Christoph. We'll check in with you in a little bit to see what the results on the poll are. To the advocate and also the operations manager, maybe you can comment on what Christoph said regarding the increase in the number of complaints that have been put to the office and how you're going about handling those complaints. You can just press the unmute button on your screen and we'll be able to hear you again.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay. All right. The 670 cases that were referred to, it's actually not the complaints themselves. In the beginning, remember we set a new office altogether. So, not so many people knew about the office. So it was mainly inquiries that were made. We had about 156 complaints, all in all, in the first 6 months. Now, that number grew to over 700 in the first 6 months of the financial year, the previous financial year. And currently, we're running in the figures of about 6,600. We're talking a mixture of complaints and inquiries. This is what's happening. So that figure has increased tremendously. Now, and what we are doing currently is just to try to reach out and to be engaging various people, tax practitioners. We're engaging the public. We're using various media. We use radio, we use TV, we use print media as well. So just so that we get to be known. Rights will not play any role whatsoever unless people know them. So we are
actually,
yes.
That was actually my next question, to find out in terms of your marketing and how you put yourselves out there and how people get to know about you. I was actually about to ask you that. It is 20 to 11 Wednesday morning. Thank you to everybody that's on our call. Please do click on the poll at the bottom and answer and let us know what issues you would most likely take to the Tax Ombud. Now, Advocate, I don't know if this is an unfair question, but for somebody that's starting out in business and they are very wary about making any mistakes, are there guidelines that one can follow to make sure that they never have to come to the office of the Tax Ombud?
Unfortunately, we have no control over that. That's an issue that with SARS, So, I mean, it depends on the service that they receive from SARS. So if SARS is giving them good service, they may not necessarily come to us. And also if SARS is treating them, fairly and the like, then it may not be necessary to come to us. But if SARS crosses that line, we have no control over that. It's just like a policeman, if people behave, they may be, out of, work. But if people do misbehave, they're kept on duty.
No, that is very true. Just an interesting question on my end is, outside of dealing with people's complaints, do you call SARS to task on the things that they do? Are you at all responsible for perhaps evaluating SARS's, not say daily projects, but just overall? Do you call SARS to task?
Well, look, our role is to analyze the complaints, and then if we pick up anything from the trends, we are able to address SARS on that. So we can be advising SARS. Maybe, for example, I mean, one of the issues that we pick up is that people don't understand a lot of tax. So we do make recommend campaign and of educating taxpayers. Those are the kind of recommendations that we may be making as we go around the country and speak with people.
For people that are interested, are there information sessions that they can attend at your offices, or a running workshop that is available for people to attend?
Well, our office is very much accessible. So, for example, any speaking opportunity that we get, we want to make use of. So, if for example, an organized small business wants to know more about our office, they can communicate with our office, and we can make ourselves available. We can have an answer question session. But so far, we will be doing various road shows. We're planning them for later part of the year. We were doing road shows with tax practitioners in the previous year, and we are still continuing this in this current year. So any speaking opportunity, we may.
We'll take it up.
Yeah, we'll take it up.
Well, I must say you sound very well organized. It sounds like the office is doing great work, that people are getting to know about you, people are coming to you, which I think is really fantastic, especially with a growing landscape for small businesses and entrepreneurs and wanting people to do well. It's nice to know that we do have an office that we can go to for any tax grievances, which I think a lot of people, as time goes by, will probably come to understand better how to use the office, which requests and queries to bring to you. So I'm very excited about that, and I think it just means good business all around for the entire country. Christoph, I don't know if you want to jump in and maybe just let us know what the poll looks like at the moment.
Yes, Nsiki, I will just close the poll. By the way, apologies from Herman. He just sent me a message that says he's not sure if it's load shedding or what it is, but his internet is causing problems, but he's managing to listen to what we're doing now without being able to speak.
Okay,
so hopefully
fantastic.
you'll be able to sort out that problem as we go along. But yeah, we just closed the poll. I can try to do a screen share. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in fact, if you click on the right in the polls tab, you'll see the result now. We asked, what are you most likely to contact the Tax Ombud about? And it seems that personal income tax is the winner, sort of. So even us as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, seem to be better at organizing our stuff when it comes to our businesses than when it comes to our personal income matters. But that also scores high. So personal income tax is about a third of the people on the call today, and about a quarter say that VAT calculations are important issues for them. I'm happy to see that only 12% are complaining or would like to complain about tax clearance certificates, because that piece of paper, of course, is key in doing business with all of government and a lot of corporations too.
That's very true.
So, I'm not sure if that aligns with the kind of traffic or the kind of numbers of people arriving at the Tax Ombud themselves.
Well, yes, it does. It's a good indication of really some of the issues that we see, the trends we see. VAT is always high up there, and personal income tax. So with VAT, it mostly refunds, and the same thing with the personal income tax.
That is a very good reflection. I like that. Very, very happy with that poll. And perhaps, I think we'll probably take that to our Facebook page and see what everybody else that wasn't able to join us this morning has to say, or see what the comments and remarks that are made there. And if there's anything that is really pressing, we'll probably forward it through to you. Thank you very much, Christoph, for the poll. I don't know if you have any closing question, Christoph. I know you've dealt a lot with a lot of businesses and you do a lot of training. And I don't know if people ever put tax questions to you.
Well, the thing is, as soon as you talk tax or mention the word SARS, then people tend to get quiet.
Yeah, everyone's very nervous about that. Nobody wants to get into trouble.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with that it is, as we all know, it's a duty that you need to fulfill as a business to organize your matters in such a way that you can easily comply with the requirements. But sort of as people that are entrepreneurial, they tend to want to focus on what they do in their businesses and not so much about the administration. And I think the important thing about today's discussion is that when bureaucracies at the receiver of revenue, which they need to have, they need to have those processes in place to keep the administration good. When that becomes frustrating to an entrepreneur, I know of people that through exactly that issue of VAT refunds have lost quite a bit in their businesses because they needed the cash in the business and it was still sitting with the receiver. So to know that the Ombud is on our side as entrepreneurs in that way is great. I'm not, really in the position to comment about, sort of the extent of the challenges that people have. But maybe some of the practitioners, and I'm sure there's some practitioners on the call today, could share that in the chat, sort of clients that they've worked with, that would have been an issue that they would have been able to take to the Tax Ombud, but they haven't. By the way, Nsiki, there are questions that we're probably not going to get. It's now already 10 to the hour, and we must be mindful about people's time. there are probably questions that have been typed in by people in the chat area.
Yes.
Now, you may have noticed if you've been looking there that under the Small Business Connect Radio title, there's been some activity, and that's thanks to Nabila, whose picture you don't see there, but you see the Small Business Connect logo representing her. She'll be collecting that information, and maybe we can bring her in, Nabila, if you want to speak now, about us collecting that information, and maybe with the help of Eric, we can also give direct answers to some of those questions.
Yes, we'll welcome that. In fact, we would require that.
And
so
then
we can
publish that in the next edition of the newspaper and find a way of giving feedback. By the way, we do have everyone that is signed in's email address, so we can also communicate with you in that regard. But that is, I think, what we would do, Nsiki, in terms of giving feedback to specific questions that we may not have covered today.
Okay, that is fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Christoph. So we will be in touch with you. We will wrap up all the questions, send it through to the Office of the Tax Ombud, and then stay tuned to our Facebook page, Small Business Connect, and also find us on Twitter at SASB Connect, and ask us any questions that you have there, and stay tuned for more responses. Mr. Eric Mkhawane,
Yes.
I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning. I think I'm educated on tax and what the Office of the Tax Ombud does. I hope I would never have to use you, but I'm comforted knowing that you are there should the need be.
Okay, thank you very much. By the way, our role is to make sure that at the end of the day, people comply. Because international practice is that or experience that once people know that they will be treated well by the
Yes.
revenue authority, they tend to comply better.
That's really great. And then just to find out, are you available on social media? If people want to follow the Office of the Tax Ombud and they want to post on your page.
Well, not as yet.
Okay.
Not on social media, but it's something that we may need to look into.
Okay, I've looked
so
at
we
your
have a
website.
communication. Yeah.
I've looked at your website, and it is very.
Yeah, you can visit the website. Yes, yeah. We are revamping that, and in the next month or so, I think you will see a different website.
Okay.
So that was just to start the business.
Okay. No, we wish you all the best. We have a few minutes left on the show, so if you want to stay on and listen to the rest of the show, you are more than welcome.
Yes.
But if
I'm
you
not
do
sure
need
if
to
you
go,
still have, you would have any questions for Talita Mwade, the operations manager. But if I think we may have covered whatever needed to be covered. But if you still have any other issue, you can say. I will stick around until the end of the show.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much to the two of you for your time this morning. We really appreciate it. So I'll just mute you for the rest of the show, and you'll also be able to listen in and hear what we are saying.
Okay, thank you very much also for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Christoph, I'd like to bring you in here. I know you're always reading, and you always have some great information to share with us. What book has been with you on your plane rides for the past month?
Well, if I may introduce Good to Great. I'm not sure, can you see that image?
Yes, I can.
This is not a new book for me. In fact, it is not a new book. It's been written a while ago by someone called Jim Collins. He's American. And he, other than a lot of other people that write books who speculated about what the theories are behind what they want to say, did proper research on. In fact, we reviewed this book in the, I must just look quickly, the January edition this year. Sorry for that. Didn't switch off my phone. The January edition, we reviewed this, so it is on the website already, the review itself. But this has been a book on my bookshelf for a long time. And I specifically like what Jim Collins did in the research that they did. They did it in America, but what they did is, in fact, quite a big project. They collected information. They first identified companies that consistently showed good results that weren't just a blip of good performance, but that over a good decade kept growing as businesses. And then with the leadership of those companies identified common traits in terms of their approach. Now, these are fair-sized companies, so for us as entrepreneurs, maybe we would think that maybe this doesn't apply to us so closely. But when one reads a book like this, there are definitely things for us to learn about what makes business work. And the one in this book, one distinction that he makes, the one point that he makes is, in fact, he calls this the hedgehog concept, where he draws three circles, interlinked circles, and says there what he found in his research is when companies go on the strain or when they want to grow, the good leaders know that they need to attend to these three circles, and specifically the space that the three circles interlock. So if you have that visual picture of three circles, sort of a bit like the Olympic circles, but just three of them, and there would be a space in the middle of the image where the three of them interlock. And he talks about those three elements of what you need to do if you want to find your focus and what you're really going to be good at. In fact, what you're going to be best at in terms of business. And what he found, what these leaders say, is they combine those three elements. And those three elements are, firstly, passion. So the things that we're really passionate about. In fact, if you draw a graphic like that on a piece of paper, you can write all those things that you're really passionate about in the top left circle. And then go on to proficiency, the things that you're great at, that you can do well. And you can write those things in the top right circle. Now, some things that you're passionate about, you will also be good at. But some things you may be good at that you're not really passionate about. And some things that you're passionate about, you may not be that great at. And then what we're really looking at is where the overlap with the third circle lies. And that also starts with a P. I'm not sure. Can you think what that should be? Which P that should be?
Profession?
It should be profit. Because we are a business. So he doesn't use these words. But yeah, so what are the things within my reach that I can make money from? So where passion, proficiency, and profit overlaps, that's really where I should focus. And I call that your purpose. So there we've got 4 Ps. It's not the 4 Ps that you learn about in marketing. It's the new 4 Ps, passion, proficiency, profit, and that leads you towards purpose. And this is a great distinction that I got from Good to Great by Jim Collins. There's also a lot of other stuff in this book. So find it. You may find it even in the library because it's quite a well-known book. But it is definitely available through the good bookstores, and you can go online to Amazon or any other Kalari or any other book provider that sells books on the internet.
Okay, so if you want to find your purpose, passion, proficiency, and profit is where you should probably go, and that's all available inside the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. Thank you so much, Christoph, for that book review.
Yes, I'm here.
Let me give you another one. Since we're talking about SARS, I've got the 4 Ps.
Yes.
And where they overlap, there's another P that I'll present. The 4 Ps for SARS is pay, 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 and when they overlap, it's pain.
Yes, unfortunately so. But by the way, Herman, so if you get these 4 Ps right, there is a good flow of money, so you would not have pain because you would be easily able to pay your dues when it comes to the taxes too.
Of course. Say pay and paid.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Christoph. Herman, I think I'll leave you to chat with Nabila about what is in the paper this month and exciting stories that people should know about.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Christoph, is Nabila going to be using your connection maybe?
I think she can use the Small Business connection. I tried to pull her into the call earlier and then she ignored me, so I'm not sure if she's crossed at me or... But she's coming. No, she's not cross at me. Luckily, we can have a good coffee still later on in the office.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It's now 11 o'clock and we welcome back to the sessions. Nabila, good morning to you, the editor.
Hi. Good morning, Herman, and good morning to everybody on the call. We've had a really informative show this morning, and thanks to Eric and the Tax Ombud's office team.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I mean, even the listeners that are following the chat have been commenting on just that. From Louise, Shemaine, some of the guys that have been. If you go and look on the chat area on the right side, you see some of the feedback that we've received this morning. It's been going quite well. So, what's in the edition for this month's newspaper?
Okay, so in the April edition, just to start off on the news front, business owners will have more time to submit compensation fund returns. This comes after the Department of Labour extended its deadline for returns of earnings for registered employees with the compensation fund to the 31st of May. And then also some exciting news. South Africa will be hosting Africa's first Global Entrepreneurship Congress in 2017. This event is estimated to bring in about 45 million in opportunities for the hospitality, tourism, and leisure sectors, and that's just for Joburg alone. So
Awesome.
just watch out for that. More info will follow, but that news is just in about a few weeks ago. So we'll be keeping you updated on that.
I think it's a perfect opportunity for some of the young entrepreneurs to do a bit of SME tours or something of the likes to try and compete with the big guns.
I agree, Herman. Plenty of opportunities, but stay tuned to Small Business Connect, and we will let you know where those opportunities are and what those opportunities could be.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nabila. Anything else that you want to cover?
Yes, just a really interesting story to prove that it's never too late to start your own business. We featured Bridget Radebe, a Soweto mother who started her own business at the age of 50. And she's recently increased her sales by 300%. She literally had a dream where she dreamt that she started her own business in 2002, and then later in 2011, after trying a few informal businesses, she started an oil retail business. She managed to contact Castrol Oil. She set up a partnership with them, and today she stocks 100 units of a range of Castrol products in her. Oh, actually, she sells 100 units of Castrol products in 1 week.
Sure. At 50.
Yes, that's right.
Never late to start, eh?
Never too late.
Never too late.
And then just lastly, from our readers of the month, we featured Penelope Swartz. She's been reading Small Business Connect, and she's so inspired by the stories of other entrepreneurs that she is planning to formalize and register her business that she's been running informally. It's a bag manufacturing business. So we are expecting great things from Penelope.
Awesome. We'll be following up on that as well.
I thought that, I'm not sure if I missed it, but Nabila, did you talk about the drop in small business failure rates that we covered on the front page?
You haven't missed it, actually. I can't believe I missed that. It's our front page story. We zoomed in on the fact that there's been a drop in the failure rate. A lot of other media zoomed in on the fact that on another angle, but we thought it would be interesting and inspiring for small businesses to read the latest from the GEM 2014 report, which reveals that there has been a drop in
business failure
in
rate.
the small business failure rate. Yeah.
Did they cover what made that? What attributes did they cover? Is it better training, better system or process management? Because previously it was like people end up opening the wrong businesses.
I think that will be in the local 2014 report, which is normally released by UCT's business school, Mike Eddington. So we've actually been waiting on that release, but there's just been a delay in that. So once that report's been launched, we will do a follow-up on the story.
Cool, interesting. I think that's.
I mean, the thing is that if you read that report, the GEM report, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor report, you may at first think that it's all doom and gloom because it talks about the drop in the entrepreneurial startup rate. You know, the number of or the percentage of adults that are involved in starting businesses. And it may, at first you may think, oh no, sort of we're going the wrong way. But if you read further in the report, so this is a very interesting thing. You see that there's also a rise, another drop in the failure rate of established businesses, which is absolutely great. And that's actually where job creation is happening. I see Herman, and we just lost Herman after call, Siki. But so maybe on that point, Nabila, I'm not sure if you've got something else in terms of the newspaper, but we are already 5 minutes over the hour. Perhaps we should be ending the show. And Siki, if you would like to do that for us.
I think that's very interesting. I look forward to that report coming out, and also maybe just Googling the one that's already out and really combing through it in detail. But I think it says a lot if there has been a drop in the number of failures for startups and entrepreneurs trying to initiate projects. And I think information providers like Small Business Connect, if I may say so, may have contributed to that, and just sharing people's stories and giving people the knowledge that they need. And I think it also communicates that people are probably not so afraid anymore to try businesses, and they're not afraid to fail, and that they are prepared to actually take those lessons, run with it, and try again. So that's very great. And hopefully we can maybe look at doing a show specifically on that, and just looking at how the phase of startups has changed, and how the challenges have changed, and how people are actually better coping to ensure that they succeed. So maybe we can follow up, Jim, and make it a big thing.
Siki, just to clarify,
Yes,
the drop in the failure rate is actually for established businesses and not startups. So it speaks more to people persevering and seeing it through.
Okay, which is even better. So what they're saying is that if you, like say now 5 years ago, most businesses would fail after 2 years. Are they now saying that they would last to 5 years and 7 years and so forth?
Yeah, the GEM definition for established business is, I think, 3.5 years.
Okay, I was just struggling to hear you there for a second, but I think people can check out that cover story, and it's available on the PDF download, but also they can get a copy of Small Business Connect for this month. Christoph, I don't know if you have any closing remarks. I know people have taken some time to be with us this morning, and we're almost 10 minutes over our dedicated hour slot. Is there anything that you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
No, just to say that we'll keep everyone posted in terms of future shows. Please do go follow us on Facebook, where we keep people informed. And of course, the more you like what we put there, the more likely you are to actually get the stuff onto your news feed. But we look forward to keep the small business community informed about things. And I enjoyed the show. I learned a lot. There's always something new to learn. And I'm looking forward to connect with people when we host the next show.
Thank you, Christoph. Nabila, is there anything on your end just to sign off?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody for tuning in. And yeah, as I said earlier, it's been a really informative show.
Fantastic. Normally we would have Tobani to give us our tax tip, but seeing that we did take time to speak to the Office of the Tax Ombud, I don't think it's necessary for a tax tip. So, pay, and there won't be pain, as Herman said earlier. And he did have problems with his internet in joining us this morning, but he did enjoy listening to the show. Thank you so much to everybody. Please continue to follow us on our Twitter page, SASB Connect, and on our Facebook as well, Small Business Connect. Make sure you get this month's issue of the paper, and follow us on social media. Ask us your questions, and really put things to us, and we'll go out, find the information, and bring it back to you. I'm Ziggy Mkhize. Thank you so much for your time. Stay inspired and have a blessed day.